Pretty good?
Oh, we're doing great. Bruins winning 3 in a row, 6 out of 8 under Joe Sacco. What's different?
Their defense is way better as a team. Their structure in the neutral zone changed. I think last week we talked instantly that was changing, which carried over into the defensive zone. The penalty kills, 19 of 20 since Joe Sacco took over. We've been waiting for that to turn the entire season. It just didn't make sense that they had the same personnel, the same goalie, the same coaches, and they couldn't kill a penalty to save their life. So that's gotten better, and it's just a defensive mindset that has been reset because of the change, but all around just needed a reset, and that's what's contributing to these wins. And Detroit's a good example. It's a boring game the other night. It's a terrible game against Detroit, but they found a way to pull it out because they're giving themselves a chance.
Should we feel really good about this 8-game start, or should we pump the brakes a little bit because of the opponents, for the most part, have not been great teams?
No, it's tough to win in the league. I'm not going to, because if they didn't win against those bad teams, we'd be crushing them for that. So, again, we know the pro schedule is a pro schedule. You're going to have softer points. I would say that last night's game, that's as tough a travel as you're going to get in the Eastern Conference to play at home and then have to go to Chicago halfway across the country for one game and then get back on a plane and come home back-to-back nights. So that's not easy to pull that one out. So I think you're probably not going to go 6-2 every 8-game segment the rest of the year. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this team is certainly good enough to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games over 500 in another 10 days.
I heard, I think it was Chris on the Greg Hill show this morning asked Milbury about whether or not they should remove the interim tag from Joe Sacco, which I personally would not do. But do you think there's an element or a reason to do that for the players in the room? They know who the guy is for the rest of the year. How would you feel about removing that interim tag from Sacco?
No, I don't think it's necessary to do. They're not getting another coach this year. I mean, that's I don't see any scenario where that happens. So it's easy just to keep it as it is. This was our decision, and go win games, and we'll deal with it in the off season.
What do you make of David Pasternak's season so far? He's off his normal goal scoring pace, and he's set some pretty incredible numbers over the last 2 years. I know they haven't scored a lot on the power play. That might be a big reason why he hasn't piled up the goals so far this year. But just overall, Jones and I aren't as down on him as seemingly a lot of listeners. Like, we're getting a lot of texts and tweets and things about.
Yeah, it's surprising.
People are kind of turning on Pasternak a little bit. I'm curious what you've thought of his first 28 games.
Yeah, I was listening, and I appreciated your views. I think it's
we're hockey guys. We get it. We understand.
We know what we're doing.
I appreciate the fact you guys spent 25 minutes talking about the Bruins, which that's remarkable at times in this city. So well done.
Thank you.
I'm 100% with you. So while I was listening, I wanted to make a couple points. So I agree 100%. He hasn't got one easy goal on the power play all year. I mean, that used to be an automatic where you'd get 2 or 3 easy ones just off of a face-off play and just off of a power play. So that hasn't clicked for him yet. That affects his goal scoring ability, and the power play is not that good. And quite honestly, as bad as it could possibly be in the NHL, they're at the bottom. The other thing, I looked up while you guys were talking, top 30 guys in the National Hockey League. And I also agree he's going to score 15 goals over 10 games and jump back into the top 10 very quickly at some point. But right now, he's outside the top 30. The top 30 guys, the lowest shooting percentage is John Tavares at 13.6. David Pasternak's shooting percentage is 8%. So when the lowest guy in the top 30 is 13.6, most of the guys are up over 20% shooting percentage. David Pasternak's going to revert closer to the mean there. He's going to get his shooting percentage back up over 10, 12, 13, 15%. And when he does, you're going to look at his goal totals and say, oh, he's got 35 goals now.
So we're talking to Andrew Raycroft of Nesson, joining us here on a Bruins Thursday, Jones and Keefe on WEEI. Beyond just some bad luck, though, what's wrong with the power play?
Yeah, they haven't connected enough passes. I think that's the big one for me. I think you see almost on every opportunity, there's a bobbled pass somewhere, and it really slows them down. And when you bobble it once, the defending team can close a little quicker. They get to the next pass a little quicker, and then you start rushing as well. So there's certainly some individual performances that need to be better, just simple details. I think that they haven't had a shot mentality from the top enough at times. I think they get passing around the perimeter and try and make a perfect play to David or try and make a perfect play through the seam, which has hurt them a lot of times when they do get set up. So those are the two main things for me is just being better with your passing, more crisp, more dialed in, but then also having a shot-first mentality. I think they've done a better job retrieving pucks. They've done a better job with their entries lately. They just have to clean up the last two, and it should open up a little bit more.
As soon as Sacco took over, Korpisalo got that first game. We all made like a big deal out of that, and we're wondering how it was going to go. And since then, it's been pretty straightforward. Korpisalo gets a game, Swayman gets two, back to Korpisalo, Swayman for two. Is that something you think they're going to keep going? I mean, barring injury and barring back-to-backs and things like that, do you think that's probably going to be a pattern they continue to use?
Yeah, I do. I think that's the ideal scenario where you're playing once a week if you're Jonas Korpisalo, and Jeremy's playing twice a week. And especially this time of year, especially with the travel, they have a big road trip coming up. You're going to want to spread things out a little bit. Now the defense and the structure in front of the goaltenders is better. That keeps everybody in the mix as well. So yeah, I absolutely foresee a scenario where at least over the next 4 weeks you see Korpisalo play 4 times.
How do you feel, Razor, about the Four Nations face-off? The rosters were locked in last night. A bunch of Bruins are going to be a part of this. Boston's going to be one of the sites. Are you a fan of the format? Do you like they're doing this? How do you feel about it?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I am. I love international hockey. We haven't seen, and the reason I say that is because we haven't seen this since 2018 when they did a similar scenario. They had 6 or 8 teams. I understand the political landscape we live. Russia not being involved in a hockey tournament doesn't feel quite the same for me. There's a lot of great players being left out without them in the mix. So the 4 teams, I'm not sure about. I'm not sure what the teams and what the intensity is going to look like, but I am glad that international hockey is getting back, and I think I will love it once they get playing. I haven't seen it for so long. I don't have the same buzz as what I might have in for the 2010 Olympics, let's say.
So they have the Olympics. They have this now, the Four Nations Cup. Was there also like a World Cup that they had at some point, like off and on World Cup? Like what other events are there for country versus country?
Correct. So this is going to essentially be the World Cup. Okay. I think the view of this is going to be the World Cup in 4 years from now, have more teams. This was planned a little bit later. I think they're putting it together just to get something started. The World Cup of Hockey is player and league generated, so everybody has a say in it. That's important to the Players Association. A revenue generator, also having some control as players on what the schedule looked like, etc. Whereas the Olympic hockey is the IIHF and the Olympic Committee, it's a whole different. The league really doesn't have any say in any of that. So, or the players certainly. So, 2 separate things. But the Four Nations is essentially the old World Cup of Hockey in '96 and in 2004. And I think the idea is to do this every 4 years. Olympics every 4 years, and then you have international hockey every 2.
Okay. He's Andrew Raycroft. Joins us every Bruins Thursday here on Jones and Keefe.